Michael Feinberg and Lisa Rubin are back with us. There is this pesky thing in the law, Lisa, where you need to have evidence to support your claim. And the evidence in this case ran contrary to the claims the DOJ was making.
Absolutely. And the DOJ did this, Alicia, after Davy Hearn's lawyers had already filed a motion for grand jury transcripts saying they would have to prove at trial that Davy Hearn caused more than $1,000 worth of damage, that they couldn't do that, and that they questioned what the grand jury had been told in that indictment process. Only after that do you get this motion from Jeanine Pirro's office saying, actually, when we first indicted the case, here's what we understood from people in the National Park Service, the Department of Interior. And then when we investigated more fully, we really learned that the widespread damage, the thousands of dollars of damage being caused here, weren't attributable to Davy Hearn and his actions at all, but to the contractor who had installed this on a rush basis to ensure that the reflecting pool was in tip-top shape, which of course it was not, for the America 250 celebration.
Michael, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum backed Trump up, saying, quote, the evidence is clear. Vandals have repeatedly caused damage to the reflecting pool. No, we should note he doesn't have to say that in front of a judge. Burgum adds, we won't back down. Meanwhile, David Hearn's lawyer said this whole saga should serve as a warning. Take a listen.
What have we come to as a country where under Todd Blanche, Jeanine Pirro, and Donald Trump, innocent people like Davy Hearn can be targeted? Of course, it's not just him. We've seen a stream of others. We've worked on those cases at Democracy Defenders. Any American and every American should be concerned when you have an executive branch that behaves this way.
Here's the thing, which is you can sort of celebrate this as a legal win. This was an absurd case. It is good that Jeanine Pirro finally followed the law here. But I think that Norm is getting it exactly right there, which is this should never have been brought in the first place. This is an expression of the dangerous moment that we're living in. What do you see as the broader implications of this case, even if it's dropped?
Well, I think you're 100% right. This is a victory for one defendant in one case, but the case is also a data point in a larger trend. And that trend is the DOJ and its component agencies putting aside their norms and their own policies and the basic standards of evidence and court rules in order to deliver political scalps for the president. I spent the better part of 2 decades in the FBI. And if I had brought a case to the prosecutor for which I had not collected all the evidence from the victim agency or the private citizen victims, I'd be laughed out of the room. They would never seek charges without reviewing each and every potential document or artifact that had a bearing on the case. The Justice Manual, the how-to guide for federal prosecutors, says that you are not supposed to seek an indictment unless you can prove the facts beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. You can't know if you're going to be able to prove the facts if you haven't gathered the facts first. This is not just antithetical to democratic norms. It's bad lawyering. This is disgraceful. The Justice Department used to be the high point on any given attorney's resume. And now if you serve there during this administration, it's going to be an albatross around your neck that you're going to have to explain to future employers.
It's all just so messy. And I'm not talking about the reflecting pool itself. I want you to take a listen to how Senator Kennedy spoke about the mess that they now find themselves in.
The whole thing is a multiple vehicle pileup. Let me start with the president. The president says it was caused by vandals. I don't know whether he really believes that or it's part of his political messaging or he's just thinking out loud. You and I both know the president well. He exists loudly and he grows anxious when he has an unexpressed thought.
He grows anxious when he has an unexpressed thought. That is not a standard of law or justice.
No, it's also not sort of aspirationally what we're looking for in a president. Anybody who grows anxious with an unexpressed thought maybe doesn't have the Constitution to be the president of the United States. But I want to go back to something that Michael said about both bad lawyering and sort of anti-democratic actions here, because as much as it was bad lawyering, I don't want to let the anti-democratic aspect of this pass. Jeanine Pirro not only approved this indictment, she went on television in a televised press conference and she said, "We state and we will prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Davy Hearn caused more than $1,000 worth of damage at the reflecting pool." The fact that she was willing to say that as an indictment was pending, not knowing what internal communications at the Department of Interior and National Park Service Police showed, is an aberration from how we should expect our nation's top law enforcement to behave. And it would have been prejudicial to Davy Hearn if this case were going to progress to trial. Now, the case has not been dropped yet, and that's the other thing I want to underscore. The U.S. Attorney's Office asked to dismiss this case without prejudice. That means that they are opening themselves up or telling a court, we might be able to bring this again. We don't want you to foreclose us from doing so. They have a status conference scheduled for later this week. I don't expect that judge in the D.C. Superior Court to let them off the hook so easily. And when Norm Eisen says there should be consequences for this, I'll be really interested to see what he thinks those consequences should be.